It was a quiet evening in a small town just outside Portland. The kind of town where everyone knew each other, where kids played hopscotch on cracked sidewalks, and where people believed that evil only existed somewhere far away. But that illusion shattered for one little girl named Lily Carter, an 8-year-old with bright blue eyes, tangled blonde hair, and a backpack covered in cartoon stickers. She had no idea that behind her innocent footsteps, danger was creeping closer, silent, calculated, and merciless. If you believe kindness can change the world, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to Kindness Universe, where real stories of courage and humanity come alive. Lily's life had always been simple. Her mom, Sarah, worked double shifts at the diner, often leaving Lily to walk home from school by herself. Their route wasn't long, a few blocks past the grocery store, then across the empty lot that cut behind the main street. But recently, Lily began to notice something odd. A man in a rusted blue van seemed to appear every other afternoon, sometimes parked by the curb, sometimes slowly trailing behind her. At first, she thought it was coincidence. Maybe he was just lost. But when she saw him again and again, with the same dark cap and cold eyes following her in the rearview mirror, she felt something she didn't yet know how to name: fear. One rainy Thursday, that fear became real. The blue van stopped at the corner as she passed by. The window rolled down just enough for a man's voice to slither out. "Hey, sweetie," he said softly. "Your mom told me to give you a ride home." Lily froze, her heartbeat pounded in her ears. "My mom doesn't know you," she whispered, taking a step back. The man's smile twitched. "Come on now, don't make this hard." Before she could turn to run, another man stepped out from the passenger side. That's when Lily bolted. She didn't think, she just ran, through puddles, across the alley, and into the only open place nearby. A rundown bar where loud laughter and the roar of engines shook the walls. Inside, a group of bikers were gathered, leather vests, beards, tattoos, and rough edges that would make any adult hesitate to approach. But Lily didn't care about appearances. She ran up to them, tears streaming down her face, and gasped, "Please, they're following me." The laughter stopped. The music faded. A man named Jake, broad-shouldered, with a gray beard and a scar running down his cheek, crouched beside her. "Who's following you, kiddo?" he asked softly. "The men in the blue van," she stammered, pointing toward the door. Jake turned to his crew, the Iron Wind Brotherhood. For years, they'd been misunderstood, a biker group once known for reckless rides, now reformed into a community chapter that helped with charity rides and veterans fundraisers. But tonight, something primal stirred in them, the instinct to protect. Jake nodded once. "Stay here, sweetheart." In seconds, the bikers poured out of the bar like a storm. Engines roared, headlights flared, and the blue van peeled away in panic. But they were too slow. Within minutes, the bikers cornered the van on an empty stretch of road. Jake dismounted, chains swinging in his hand. The man in the van muttered something, but Jake's glare silenced him. "What are you doing following a little girl?" Jake demanded. "And nothing, man, you got it wrong." Jake leaned closer. "I don't think so, get out." They called the sheriff, an old friend of Jake, who knew the Brotherhood had cleaned up their act. When officers arrived, they found more than just two men. In the back of the van were cameras, ropes, candy wrappers, and a list of addresses. The horror became clear. These men weren't just stalkers. They were part of something far darker. Lily was taken home safely that night, her small hand clinging to Jake's massive one. Sarah burst into tears when she saw her daughter walk through the door. She hugged the bikers, sobbing, thank you for saving my baby." Jake smiled faintly. "We just did what anyone should do." But the story didn't end there. Over the next few days, the Brotherhood couldn't shake what they'd seen. They gave the evidence to the police, but something didn't feel right. The men in the van were clearly part of a larger operation. Jake decided they couldn't just walk away. Using what little they knew, fake IDs, suspicious license plates, and hidden cameras, the bikers started digging. They used their network, their contacts, and their street sense. Within weeks, they uncovered an underground ring that had been targeting children across multiple counties. They shared everything with Detective Harris, a tough but compassionate officer who had once clashed with Jake years ago. At first skeptical, Harris realized the bikers' information was solid. Together, they formed an unlikely alliance, a lawman and a biker gang, fighting for something greater than themselves. One night during a coordinated sting operation, the bikers pretended to be potential buyers from out of town. It was dangerous, unpredictable work. If the predators realized who they really were, things could turn violent fast. But the Brotherhood stood fearless. Jake entered an abandoned warehouse posing as the buyer. Hidden microphones relayed every word to the police vans waiting nearby. The ringleader, a slick man in his 40s, bragged about his business, the kind of words that made Jake's blood boil. But he kept his cool, signaling subtly to the outside team. Then at the perfect moment, the sound of engines thundered again, this time from both sides. Police stormed in. Bikers flanked the exits. Chaos erupted. Screams, running feet, flashing lights. And in the middle of it, 15 predators were dragged out in handcuffs. Lily's case became national news. Headlines read, "Biker Brotherhood helps police bust massive child exploitation ring." Parents wept watching the story unfold. For once, the world saw bikers not as rebels, but as guardians. Jake and his crew stood before the courthouse a week later, watching as the men who had haunted their community were sentenced to decades in prison. At the press conference, a reporter asked Jake what made them get involved. He looked toward Lily and her mom standing nearby, then said quietly, "We ain't heroes. We just saw a scared kid who needed help, and we did what anyone with a heart should have done. The real strength of a man isn't how loud his engine is, it's how he uses it to protect the innocent." Lily grew up visiting the Iron Wind clubhouse every Christmas after that. They became her family, her protectors. The men who once scared her now felt like guardian angels on roaring steel. Jake would often hand her his jacket and say, "You wear this, kiddo, and no one in the world can touch you." Years later, when Lily graduated high school, she stood at a podium during her speech and looked directly at the group of bikers sitting proudly in the front row. "When I was 8, she said, her voice trembling, "I thought monsters were unstoppable. But that night, I learned something powerful sometimes. The people who look the roughest on the outside are the ones with the biggest hearts." If this story moved you, remember to like, share, and subscribe to Kindness Universe. Because the world needs more people who act with courage and compassion, just like them. Lily's story remains a living reminder. Heroes don't always wear uniforms or capes. Sometimes, they ride Harleys, carry scars, and speak through the rumble of engines, proving that even in the darkest corners of the world, kindness can roar louder than fear.